This is the ultimate guide video for Rahu. In this video, we will go over their best build, modules, shells, passives, and test which content they work best in and their pros and cons.
Yeah, and what's truly fascinating about Rahu, I think, is how they elegantly blend defensive scaling with, well, potent offensive capabilities and even supportive elements. We'll really explore how to harness that unique complexity, make them a real powerhouse on your team.
Absolutely. And that's our mission here, to cut through the noise, give you the most important nuggets of knowledge quickly and thoroughly, and help you hit those aha moments. So yeah, consider this your comprehensive guide to truly understanding and optimizing Rahu. Let's get right into it.
Diving into their core, Rahu's unique mechanic really centers around the stackable buff called Wrath. Now, this isn't just like a simple buff. Each stack of Wrath increases Rahu's defense by 5%, and this can climb all the way up to a maximum of 12 stacks. And what's really crucial here is that Wraths cannot be dispelled. I mean, once Rahu gets those stacks, they're truly solidified, builds up this unshakable defensive base.
That permanency sounds incredibly powerful. So how does Rahu actually accumulate these Wrath stacks? Is it slow or more dynamic?
It's quite dynamic, actually. They start strong, get this 3 stacks right at the beginning of the battle, gives them an immediate defensive boost. Beyond that, Rahu gains 1 stack whenever other allied animuses act 4 times. Simple enough. But here's where it gets interesting for team building strategy. There's also a 60% chance to gain 1 additional stack when other allied animuses don't use attack skills during their turn. So this really encourages pairing Rahu with supports, or maybe control characters, who might use non-attacking abilities more often.
Right, right. It sounds like Rahu is just constantly building up this defensive power, becoming like an absolute wall. But is Wrath purely defensive? Or does it contribute to Rahu's offense? And is there some kind of trade-off? Seems almost too good.
Well, there absolutely is a trade-off, and that's where the strategy, really comes in. A single stack of Wrath can be randomly consumed to assist allies with Rahu's skill 1 when they attack. Basically a follow-up attack. Now, this utility deepens. At 4 stacks, Rahu can transfer 1 debuff from that ally they're assisting to the target. Pretty neat. And if they reach 6 stacks, an additional 1 debuff can be transferred, though this consumes 1 more Wrath stack. So yeah, the more utility you get, the more Wrath gets consumed. There's a delicate balance, you see. Retaining stacks for power versus using them for team support.
That's a really intriguing dynamic. Yeah, not just stacking it, but actively managing it. And how does all this defense translate into Rahu's actual damage?
That's the beauty of it. At 8 stacks of Wrath, for every 4% defense Rahu has higher than the target, their basic attack damage output increases by 1%. And this caps out at a maximum of 40% extra damage. So this isn't just a stat boost. It fundamentally changes how you think about Rahu's damage. Unlike, traditional attackers, his offensive power directly feeds off his tankiness. So every bit of defense investment isn't just for survival, it's amplifying his output, turns him into a true defensive powerhouse that hits surprisingly hard.
Okay, before we dig deeper into the skills themselves, let's quickly set the stage with Rahu's base stats. This is at level 50, fully maxed out, no modules or shells equipped. Rahu boasts a solid 15,655 hit points, 1,335 Ecto-C defense. Defense pretty high, 1,004 attack, 132 speed, 18% crit rate, 150% crit damage, and 12% effect accuracy. Those numbers really underscore that defensive foundation we've been talking about.
Exactly. Now let's break down their skills, see how these stats are leveraged, and how they interact with that core Wrath mechanic. Rahu's skill 1, Flame Stream, has no cooldown, 0. It's their primary single-target damage source. It deals damage based on a massive 380% of Rahu's defense to 1 enemy. And, importantly, has an 80% chance to inflict a 1-turn defense down debuff that decreases the enemy's defense by 60%. Super crucial for their own damage and setting up teammates, too.
Okay, so skill 1 is the consistent damage dealer. But often the true power, the core identity, lies in the passive, right? How does Rahu's signature passive, Wrathful Form, weave into this whole Wrath thing?
Right, Wrathful Form. Also no cooldown. It's absolutely central. It is the engine for gaining those Wrath stacks we detailed. And it also houses that unique debuff transfer mechanism we mentioned. At 4 Wrath stacks, transfers 1 debuff. At 6 stacks, transfers an extra 1 debuff, but it costs more Wrath. This lets Rahu not only cleanse allies, but actually turn those nasty debuffs into offensive pressure on the enemy. That's a rare and powerful combo.
Makes sense. And finally, their ultimate, skill 3, Flame Authority. What does this bring to the table?
Okay, this one has a 4-turn cooldown. First, it applies a 2-turn defense up buff, increases defense by 60% to all allies. Huge team defense boost. Crucially, it also gives Rahu 3 stacks of Wrath right away, assuming it's max level. That directly fuels his other abilities. Then, after all that, It deals area of effect damage equal to 400% of Rahu's defense to all enemies. So it's really multifaceted. Boosts the team, charges Rahu himself, and delivers damage.
So what we're seeing here, it isn't just a collection of skills, it's more like a carefully orchestrated symphony, isn't it? Rahu conducts this kind of graceful dance, continuously building defensive power, then sweeping in with team-wide support, and finally unleashing these surprising breaths of damage. It's this intricate balance that defines his playstyle, that constant tension between utility and raw output.
Building on that, Rahu truly is, as you said, a marathon specialist when it comes to player versus environment content, PvE. They shine particularly bright in longer battles like Union Boss or Phantom Theater. And this is precisely because their kit needs that time to ramp up, to stack wrath. And their inherent survivability lets them stay in the fight, outlasting many opponents.
And how does that translate to player versus player PvP?
PvP. Rahu is absolutely deadly there, especially in those tanky team compositions. Their ability to generate large shields plus consistently transfer debuffs makes them extremely threatening. They can turn enemy debuffs right back on them, essentially making it an advantage for your team. I remember this one match, and my Rahu just soaked a huge hit from the enemy's main damage dealer, then boom, flipped a critical debuff right back onto them. It was almost comical how much pressure he could exert just by staying alive and doing his thing.
Huh. That's exactly the kind of resilience you want, right? So let's break down Rahu's overall strengths and weaknesses. Let's summarize. Pros. Very good single target damage output, gets significantly stronger the longer the battle lasts, incredibly tanky, hard to kill, and can transfer debuffs from allies to enemies. Big pluses. However, there are some significant challenges too. Rahu needs time to ramp up. That makes them less ideal for burst damage situations or shorter fights. Their defense scaling, like Cool and Unique, does limit their set and shell options compared to your typical attack scaling characters. You're hunting for different stats. And naturally, characters who apply defense down debuffs, defense shredders, they hurt Rahu significantly. Hits both his damage and survivability. Plus, like we mentioned, allies can sometimes consume too many wrath stacks if they're getting focused or debuffed a lot, which can drastically reduce Rahu's own damage output.
Yeah, exactly. And this brings us to the really important question for any player looking to optimize Rahu. How do we actually build Rahu to maximize these strengths and, mitigate those weaknesses?
Right. Now that we've got a comprehensive grasp of Rahu's core identity and where he really fits in battle, the ultimate question remains, how do we actually build him to unleash his full potential, particularly in player versus environment?
Okay, for PvE, the Artisan Shell is a top contender for Rahu. Really strong choice. Here's what it does. Before Rahu acts, Artisan increases their defense by a flat 700 for 2 turns. And it applies a shield equal to 400% of Rahu's own defense to Rahu himself and the ally with the lowest hit point percentage. That shield lasts 2 turns. This is fantastic because it lets Rahu provide these huge shields to allies without sacrificing too much personal damage thanks to that flat 700 defense bonus. Now, Artisan's Matrix sets those bonus stats you get tend to be more defensive, but the utility it provides, often well worth any slight damage trade-off. And you can run Artisan with either a standard offensive Matrix setup, going for raw damage stats, or a Time Weave setup, which reduces skill cooldowns. That means more frequent ultimates, more wrath generation, more options.
Makes sense. And when it comes to pairing module sets with Artisan for PvE, what should listeners be aiming for specifically?
All right, module sets for Artisan. You're primarily looking at options that significantly boost Rahu's speed or defense. Those are key. For 12-piece sets, Swift Crush is great. It offers a substantial 35% total speed increase, gets him more turns, faster cycles. Alternatively, Unbreakable doubles down on his core stat, defense, with a hefty 45% bonus. For 8-piece sets, you could again consider Swift Crush, but this time for a 20% speed bonus. Or Bramble, which gives 10% defense and a 25% chance to counterattack with a basic attack when hit. Nice little extra damage. Or, again, Unbreakable for a 25% defense boost at the 8-piece level. And for a 6-piece set, Cult's Guard is pretty much ideal. Provides 25% defense and 20% effect resistance. Solid defensive stats. Just remember, like you said, these percentages are the total bonuses for completing that set tier. They don't stack additively with lower tiers of the same set. All the specifics are in the show notes, of course.
Gotcha. What's an alternative if Artisan isn't quite fitting the team comp or, the play style someone prefers?
An excellent alternative is the Jackal Guard Shell. Different approach. After Rahu's turn ends, it triggers a follow-up attack on the main target. Deals damage 240% plus 4,200 flat damage. It also applies speed up to Rahu for 3 turns and increases his turn meter by 25%. The reason this is so good for Rahu is it offers slightly more, let's say, consistent damage potential from the follow-up, and significantly faster cycling through his turns. Leads to more ultimates and therefore more wrath charges overall. Like Artisan, Jackal Guard can run with either an offensive or a time weave matrix setup. Gives you flexibility, more raw damage, or more speed and ultimate uptime.
Okay, and for Jackal Guard, what module sets should listeners aim for then? Different shell, maybe different priorities.
With Jackal Guard, yeah, the best 12-piece set is generally Swift Rush again. That 35% speed increase is just so valuable for Rahu's kit overall. For 8-piece sets, you have a few good options. There's Fury, which increases attack of a 10% less useful for Rahu directly, but also makes critical hits deal an additional 12% damage, which is good. Then you have Bramble again for its 10% defense and that counterattack chance, or Unbreakable for its 25% defense bonus. Now, there isn't really an optimal 6-piece Inferno set, that category of super powerful sets, that naturally synergizes perfectly with these combinations for Jackal Guard. So you'll often be running a 12-piece or an 8-piece set without necessarily getting a full Inferno bonus tacked on.
Right, makes sense. And for players maybe just starting out, is there an early game alternative, something a bit more accessible?
Oh, absolutely. Black Flag is a really solid early game alternative to Jackal Guard. It's a lower rarity shell, easier to get, but provides similar benefits like a speed-up buff and turn meter advance. Those are crucial for getting Rahu's engine running. For Black Flag, the recommended module combo is usually a 12-piece Swift Rush for speed and an 8-piece Bramble for defense and counterattacks. Good starting point.
Okay, cool. Now, for players who really want to make a splash in player versus player, Rahu has this specialist build that apparently transforms him into an incredibly resilient and disruptive force on the battlefield. This is where he truly becomes that tanky terror you mentioned earlier.
That's right. Yeah, for PvP, the focus shifts dramatically. It's all about supreme survivability and disruption. Forget max damage, think max annoyance and resilience. The ideal shell for this specialist build is Lighthouse. Here's the trigger. It activates when Rahu takes damage greater than 25% of his max hit points within a single turn. So, big hits. When that happens, bam, it instantly heals Rahu for 25% of his max hit points and increases his turn meter progress by 25%. This provides incredibly strong personal sustain in PvP. Lets Rahu recover from those big nuke attempts and cycle his turns much faster, keeping the pressure on even when focused.
Wow, okay. Healing and turn meter, that sounds potent. And what about the modules for this tanky terror Rahu? This sounds like a very specific, very defensive combination to make him so hard to take down.
It absolutely is. It's a carefully chosen defensive synergy of 3 specific module sets working together. First up is Bloodbath. This is a 12-piece set. The 6-piece effect gives 18% effect resistance. The full 12-piece effect gives another 18% effect resistance, so 36% total from the set. But the real kicker, the huge part for PvP, is this. When the total damage taken in a turn exceeds 20% of Rahu's max hit points, the excess damage to the part above 20% is additionally reduced by a massive 55%. This isn't just about taking hits, it's about actively negating burst damage strategies. It turns Rahu into a brick wall against those one-shot attempts. Really frustrates opponents. Okay, whoa, 55% reduction on the excess damage. That's huge for anti-burst. So it's all about shrugging off those massive hits. Next, we slot in Bramble, the 8-piece set. The 4-piece effect provides 10% defense, and the 8-piece effect adds another 10% defense, so 20% total defense from Bramble. Plus, you still get that effect. Upon being hit, Animuses have a 25% chance to counterattack with a basic attack. Now, while Rahu already gets follow-ups from Wrath, that defense percentage bonus from Bramble is incredibly valuable for his scaling. Directly boosts his damage and his survivability. And hey, extra counterattack damage is always nice for a tanky unit who's likely getting hit a lot. It adds up.
Right, more defense, more damage, more tankiness, potential extra hits. Got it. And to round out this formidable defensive package, what's the final piece?
The final piece is Guard. This is a powerful 6-piece set, part of that Inferno category. This set provides a very substantial 25% defense increase and an additional 20% effect resistance. It's just a fantastic defensive choice. Directly boosts Rahu's core defense scaling even further and gives him much-needed effect resistance to shrug off stuns, freezes, defense breaks, all those control effects so common in PvP. Put these 3 together, Bloodbath, Bramble, Guard, and you have an incredibly resilient Rahu.
Wow. This combination, yeah, it makes Rahu incredibly difficult to take down. Allows him to continuously ramp up his wrath, apply that debuff transfer pressure, all while just refusing to die in those longer PvP battles. It truly transforms him into this unique anchor threat that opponents often underestimate, until it's too late.
Exactly. Now, okay, let's talk about how to prioritize Rahu's stats and skill upgrades to make these builds truly sing. Get the most out of them. For main stats on your modules, It's a bit of a balancing act. For your first two main stat slots, you'll generally want to balance between crit rate, crit damage, and defense percentage. Depends a bit on the build goal. For the third main stat slot, you'll likely focus on either crit damage or defense percentage.
Okay. And what about substats? What should we be looking for there? These are often the trickiest to get right, aren't they?
They really are. For substats, the general priority is speed first until you reach whatever value feels comfortable or necessary for your team composition. After speed, you want crit rate, then crit damage, then defense percentage, and finally, flat defense is the lowest priority.
Speed first. That's interesting. Can you explain that a bit more? It seems maybe counterintuitive for a character that gets so many follow-up attacks.
Yeah, it does seem a bit odd at first glance, but it makes perfect sense when you dig in. Even though Rahu gets a lot of action through follow-ups and assists, speed is crucial for his Wrath stack generation. See, a faster Rahu means more actual turns for them. More turns translates directly to more ultimates because they generate turn meter faster. Each ultimate gains Rahu 3 Wrath stacks, remember. So higher speed significantly impacts his average stack count over a fight, and also improves the uptime on that valuable defense up buff from his skill 3. So yeah, if you're finding your Rahu isn't stacking Wrath fast enough, especially in teams where allies aren't always using non-attack skills, investing more in speed is often the answer.
Gotcha. So it's not just about maximizing raw damage numbers on paper, but enabling his unique mechanics to truly flourish over the course of a battle.
Exactly. That's the key takeaway. After you hit your target speed and crit rate, and yeah, ideally you're aiming for 100% crit rate for consistent damage output, your next focus for offense should probably be crit damage. However, remember that defense percentage is always valuable for Rahu. It increases his damage and survivability. Especially with that Artisan shell build we talked about, more defense means bigger shields for the team too. So finding that right balance between crit damage and defense percentage, that can be really beneficial for overall utility and resilience. It's a fine line. Depends on your specific goals.
Right, right. And for show passives, those extra bonus stats that shells can roll.
Good question. For slot 1 on the shell, defense percentage is optimal. Flat defense is an okay alternative if you can't get percentage. Slot 2 gives you flexibility. Speed, crit rate, or crit damage are all good options there, depending on what your overall build needs most to hit those important stat breakpoints. And for slot 3, you ideally want hollow damage percentage, as it directly boosts element-specific damage. Generic damage percentage is the next best thing if hollow damage isn't available.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener? Don't just blindly chase the biggest damage numbers on the character sheet. Really think about how speed helps Rahu keep his unique Wrath mechanic flowing, making him more effective over time, even though he's fundamentally a defensive character. It's a dynamic interplay.
Well said. Now, on to skill priority. This is important for resource management. Look, all of Rahu's skill upgrades are valuable. You'll want them all eventually. He benefits greatly from full investment. But for the most efficient progression, the recommended orders generally get skill 2 to level 4 first, then skill 3 to level 3. After that, max out skill 2 to level 5, then max skill 3 to level 5, and finally, max out skill 1 to level 5.
Okay, why that specific order? It seems like skill 1, his main damage skill, is kind of left to last.
Yeah, it might seem counterintuitive, but the logic is sound. This priority focuses on maximizing Rahu's Wrath generation and his supportive capabilities first, especially getting that crucial team-wide defense up buff from skill 3 more consistently available early on. Skill 2's upgrades directly improve the chance of gaining Wrath stacks, which is absolutely foundational to everything he does. Once that core engine, the Wrath generation and utility, is solid and running smoothly, then investing heavily in skill 1 to level 5 significantly improves Rahu's damage potential. It gets a big multiplier increases per level. So it's all about building that robust foundation first, before maximizing the raw offensive output. You really get the most bang for your buck by getting his engine humming first.
That makes perfect sense. Wow, that truly was a comprehensive look at Rahu, the Wily Revenant. We've covered their unique Wrath mechanic, highlighting how it cleverly blends defense, support, and damage. We've explored Rahu's strengths, especially in those longer PvE battles where he can really ramp up. And we detailed that specialist PvP build, leveraging the Lighthouse shell with Bloodbath, Bramble, and Cullis Guard modules that transforms them into that formidable anti-burst tank with amazing sustain and control.
Yeah, and if we kind of connect this to the bigger picture for a second, Rahu really challenges the conventional idea that a defensive character can't be a core damage dealer, or even sometimes a team carry. So how might this blending of roles influence your team compositions? Not just with Rahu, but maybe with other animuses who seem, at first glance, pigeonholed into a single role. It opens up just so many strategic possibilities, doesn't it?
That's a fantastic thought to chew on. Definitely food for thought for everyone listening. We absolutely encourage you to explore your own Rahu builds and strategies with all this new knowledge in hand.